Nobody likes a hypocrite. Are you listening, federal regulators? Welcome back to our special report, Alaska Under Siege. The feds love to preach protection for the environment, but are they living it? The feds have made it abundantly clear they don't trust Alaskans to responsibly develop their own resources. Ironic when you consider it was the federal government that left this mess behind, right in the heart of the National Petroleum Reserve, Alaska. The feds started drilling in the NPRA in the mid-40s and continued through 1981. They drilled more than 130 wells in all. To this day, 120 of them have not been properly abandoned and capped. This mess has remained for at least 3 decades, all while the feds pretended it never happened. The responsibility for creating and cleaning up this pollution lies solely with the federal government. The same federal government that tells Alaskans, "We don't trust you to care for your own land."
This is one where I just start to see red.
If they're true environmentalists, this is their one opportunity to prove it.
They're hypocrites. I mean, it just makes me mad.
Some of the wells still leak gas. Some have debris. Metal pipes stick out of the ground. Rusted old barrels are everywhere. Some of the wells present real dangers for wildlife traveling through the NPRA. One well leaks so much natural gas you can hear it whistling. Others still have diesel sitting in pools seeping into the tundra. Where is the EPA in all this? Where are the environmental groups? Where is 60 Minutes? Where is the New York Times? Where is the paper of record for Alaska, the Anchorage Daily News? Can you imagine if a private sector oil company had done this?
They would be sent packing. They would never be allowed to operate in Alaska again.
The U.S. government drills 137 wells in the NPRA, and then they try to withdraw acreage from our people and the companies that work here on the basis that we can't take good care of our environment. When they haven't plugged and abandoned properly 137 wells that they drilled, the state cares very much. We care very much about our land and how we treat it. And so when I see that kind of hypocrisy, it just boils my blood, because the double standard that is applied is untenable. It's something that we will not accept.
And here you have 137 wells sitting out there polluting the land, and Salazar coming in as a great hero saying we're going to protect the land. Well, he hasn't done anything to even protect the land to begin with.
I took the coordinates of that particular well, got them from our pilot to make sure that I knew exactly where we were. And I emailed those to the secretary.
Pictures?
The coordinates. The coordinates, because I knew he was coming up to the state the following week. And I said, if you don't see any other legacy well, I want you to see this one.
Did he go there?
No.
The fact that he couldn't see that it was a hypocrisy, that he was trying to, shut down development when all these wells were sitting out there, that, the federal government, he could be a hero. He could be a hero and clean those wells up.
If a private sector company made this mess, the feds would demand it be cleaned up within a year. The fines would be in the millions. But what's really important about the legacy well issue is this. Save one drunk captain, Alaska's record of developing resources is without blemish. And yet the feds who refuse to clean up their own mess are demanding control, because they believe Alaskans can't be trusted.
It took Shell 5 years to get a permit after the federal government leased them land for the sole purpose of developing it for oil. They leased them land. Now, this would never have happened in Norway, in Sweden. It would have never happened anywhere else on the earth. Only here. Only here in America do we lease a company land for billions of dollars and then say, now you have to wait.
Shell Oil has spent billions hoping to one day drill off the coast of Alaska. The clock keeps ticking, and to date, Shell has yet to see a dime of profit. And there's no guarantee the company or its shareholders will ever see a return.
A company can't spend $5 billion litigating and litigating and litigating and litigating and figure, you know what, that was worth it. That was well worth it. It's too much risk. There's not risk like this anywhere else on the planet, and Alaska will not survive if we don't figure out how to address the risk problem that the environmentalists and federal government add into investing in Alaska.
The Environmental Protection Agency has hardly been a friend of offshore drilling in Alaska or elsewhere. The EPA required Shell to meet air quality standards for its drilling ship that the federal agency admits has never been met before, and there's not currently a ship sailing that meets those standards. Shell had to spend $25 million to retrofit its drilling ship to meet the new EPA standards. The drilling ship in question released considerably less pollution than your average cargo ship even before the retrofitting.
If they were for offshore, I don't think they would have delayed things as long as they did. You know, and just take a look at the sources of the delay and ask yourself, were they necessary? Example number one, EPA air quality permits. You don't have that permitting system in the Gulf of Mexico, but they required it. And then after they decided they were going to do it, they said, well, we don't know how to do this because we haven't done this up here before. Well, why are you doing it in the first place?
You know, you've seen the studies on the OCS. If there's a large fine out in the federal OCS in Alaska, the numbers that UAA and ICER came up with, they're incredible, right? 55,000 jobs.
That EPA is back on the job for the American people to protect human
If the only thing that you look to is your mission, what they consider to be the benefit, and you don't look to the cost, something's out of whack here. And so, and this is what we deal with the EPA. They basically say, look, we don't care how much it costs. We don't care what it's going to cost to you or the impact to your economy. This is the way it is.
So is it standard procedure then for an economic analysis to not include jobs?
Well, and I can get back to on the specific details of how we do economic analysis.
You didn't look at jobs?
Not directly, no.
No, I mean, is it your position, is it the EPA's position that an economic analysis that fails to take into account jobs, is that a complete economic analysis? I mean, to me, I don't know how you can talk about economic analysis without talking about jobs. So,
well, clearly we would look at any job consequences.
But you haven't, and you said you won't, and you didn't.
Well, you know, as I explained earlier, you know, we have to look at the direct consequence of the rule, and so to the extent that there are direct job consequences, we will take a look at that.
So you have taken a look at jobs?
We have not directly taken a look at jobs.
But you just said you would, that your answer just then said that you would take a direct look at jobs, look at direct jobs.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you have or you haven't?
Not directly in the rule, in the proposed rule.
Sir, over the past year, many permits have indeed been issued, and mining projects
Not since you've been commissioner.
No, that is not true, sir. That is not a fair statement.
How many?
I don't have the number, but
How
we
can you
would
say there's been a lot?
Because my notes here say it is worth noting that many projects are still proceeding. Over the past year, many permits have been issued either as individual permits or as authorizations under Kentucky's authority.
Name me one permit you've approved since you've been director. Just name me one. And when it was.
You know,
your staff is there. They can help you with this. I'm waiting.
Why don't, instead of me giving you a list that wouldn't be accurate, I'll give you a list of permits that have been.
No, I want to know now.
Well, I can't give it to you now, sir.
I know you can't because there's not been any. And I've got people looking for work, out of work.
They really are out of control. They seem so emboldened under this administration that they don't even look at what the economic consequences of what their decisions are. And everything in life is balance. We have to balance our opportunities, our economic opportunities, and our environmental responsibilities. And that's where the balance has just gone out the window with them.
A perfect illustration of how out of control the EPA is comes with their new regulation requiring cruise and cargo ships to burn more expensive fuel. The new regulation will disproportionately affect Alaska because it applies to vessels traveling within 200 miles of North America. The rule will increase the cost considerably of every good shipped to Alaska.
Well, because ships that bring products and goods to Alaska, as well as ships that bring visitors to Alaska, have to be in this zone, this 200-mile zone, the entire voyage coming to Alaska. So that raises tremendously the cost. The cost for goods being shipped to Alaska, the cost for people on cruise ships being transported to Alaska. When those costs go up, it hurts our economy.
They don't care what the impact may be to us in Alaska, the fact that it may increase our food costs by 25%. And the frustrating thing is they're not really able to demonstrate a tangible benefit for that cost. ICA is a perfect example. This is a requirement that says, okay, your carriers, your marine engines are going to be required to meet these low sulfur requirements. They have never done any atmospheric monitoring in the state of Alaska to determine if in fact we've got a problem. They're basing this requirement off of emissions from ports like Long Beach, where I don't know if you've ever been there, Dan, but you fly over, you drive through, and it's about as congested as a marine environment as you will ever find, in a very congested and polluted area. Yeah. And so they're taking those monitoring requirements, or monitoring emissions, and they're saying, okay, we're just going to apply it wherever there's water. Well, heaven's sakes.
And even broader than just Alaska, as a country, how can we compete as a country when we do this to ourselves, to where we tie ourselves up in knots, to where we can't move forward? We can't compete against other countries when they have a balanced approach to how that they deal with the regulatory aspects, that they don't inhibit and slow down business, but they encourage business.
It's kind of breathtaking, right? Never done it before. They're looking to close off possibly a swath of the state land the size of New Jersey.
And for EPA to come in, it makes it even more difficult for us to be fighting our own government and not seeing, they don't see the opportunities we see for the young people to have jobs and to have hope like we do now.
Shouldn't we wait for the plan?
I think the plan's going to be a critical component. And I mean, if the EPA...
critical component? How do you evaluate a plan without a plan?